Hello everyone, and welcome to Books in the World. I am your host, Madeline Mealy-Holt, and we're here today to discuss a wonderful new book called Passion and Provocation by Judith Partelow. And Judith, welcome. I'm so excited to talk with you. We're going to do some poetry reading and talk about your career. So welcome. Before we get started, I'd like to mention that Books in the World is a production of the Cape Cod Writers Center, where both of us are on the board of directors. And the Writers Center has been producing Books in the World for over 40 years. We're quite sure it's the oldest, or we're quite sure it can be one of the oldest continuously produced book talk shows in the United States, at least on cable TV. It parallels the history of cable TV on Cape Cod. So adding another chapter to our many interviews today, we're going to talk about passion and productivity. Provocation. Provocation. We're talking about the productivity of books in the world,
right.
And there we go, right into a slip of the tongue. Passion and Provocation is a collection of poems by Judith. It's poignant and passionate compilation. It weaves threads of womanhood into a vivid tapestry of a life richly lived. We are going to read some poems, both of us. But before we do, I wanted to mention that one of your readers has written a very lovely summary of how she felt. And this is from Lily Ports Miller, who's an author and the former editor at the Macmillan Company and McGraw-Hill, and is senior editor at McClelland and Stewart. We were happy to have her on set some years ago. We did interview her back a while ago. But Lily says, "Here are poems for the people, reflections of deep sorrow and joy that cover the spectrum of a lifetime, a distillation of passion and pain. Judith Partelow speaks from the heart, shines a light into the soul, captures the fragility of life, and conveys complex emotional experiences with clarity. This collection is truly a treasure." I was going to ask you how you feel.
Oh my goodness.
Lovely.
I mean, it was just so wonderful to have, those words from her. And she's a wonderful writer in her own right. So it made me very happy that she felt that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, everyone will feel the same way when we finish talking about the book and read some of the poems, because I can't wait to do that.
Yes.
But before we start that part, tell us a little bit about yourself. You're not only a poet, but you're a playwright.
Right.
And an actress.
Right. Right. I guess acting was the first thing that I was doing with the arts. Way back in high school, I started trying out a little acting, and I was very encouraged by the people who came to see me and really encouraged me to pursue it. And so in college, I thought I would try out for a play, and if I got cast, I knew that I should pursue it. If I didn't get cast, well, it was just the high school that was, being very nice to me. And the first production that I tried out for was The Mad Woman of Chaillot, and there's a little role in that, the flower girl, Irma, the flower girl. And so I auditioned for that part. And when I got a phone call from the director that night, he said, "Would you play The Mad Woman of Chaillot?"
Wow.
And I was just so, overcome. I cried most of the night, I think. But from that moment, I really did so much acting, and I pursued it, although not professionally as much as other people, for sure. I've done many, many productions. I did end up becoming a member of the Actors Equity and the Screen Actors Guild in 1979. And then went on to doing some background work in films and voiceovers and television commercials and things. But I was also raising 3 children with my husband and working a job. So there was only so much time for that. But I was writing at the time as well, and I started seriously writing poetry in college, and then a lot in my 30s, I would say, when I was traveling back and forth from Connecticut to New York on the train. I have a couple of poems in my book about train observations.
Yes.
And so after I became known as an actress, especially here on Cape Cod, I decided I really wanted to be known as a poet. And so I have delved into that. But I put together a play out of my first chapbook, which is called A Woman's Heart. And I made a play out of that, which was a lot of vignettes that I strung together and had other people in the play with me. There were 4 of us to begin with. And people responded to it so incredibly. It was shocking to me, because my poems, I do write for myself. I don't write them thinking, oh, I wonder if people will like this or anything like that. There's totally expressions of my observations and things that happen in my life. And then when people respond so strongly and say it's their experience, you know.
May I tell that part?
Oh, please.
I was in the audience when you first produced that play at the Jacob Sears Library, was it?
Yes.
I was there and I saw the audience reaction, including my own, and it was amazing. People came up to you afterwards and with tears in their eyes, because your poetry is so much a shared experience, mostly with women and men.
Oh,
In
yes.
fact, we have some comments from men that we're going to get to a little bit later.
Right.
But there is an interview of Books in the World, and the link will be available probably on Judith's website from 6 years ago, when we produced a little playlet right on set right here with you and one of the actors.
Rod Owens was with me. Yes.
And they did a nice job recreating some of the scenes. Tell me a little bit about your second play, which...
Oh, Neighbors, yes. I had applied for a grant from the Arts Foundation of Cape Cod to put together a play about racism. And I wanted to collaborate with people of color and people of different religious backgrounds, and cultural. So they gave me a grant, and it was a wonderful grant. And I solicited stories from many of the people that I knew, and then some other people as well that they knew, poems and stories and experiences that people had about racism, and also white people who were really conflicted about how they were supposed to speak to people of color, act, that they weren't really sure, and things are becoming so much more available for people to read about. And I wanted to express it for audiences, to see the dilemmas that people have, the experiences, the suffering. And so I did put together this play with some other writers. We had 3 different readings, and over 100 people were at each reading. We did 2 in Wellfleet, and they were so excited after the first one that they asked me to come back and do the second one. So it's a play that is made out of scenes, and people can contact me to use the scenes as stimulus for discussions.
Good work. That sounds great. Your book is just published in the last month or so. Is that true?
March 19th.
March
it was
19th.
Available. Yeah.
Can you describe the process of putting this together? There must be several hundred poems in here.
Yeah, there are 154.
Okay,
exactly.
154. So,
but there are over 200 pages.
And the book is organized into themes. Tell me about finding the themes and how you went about doing this.
It's interesting, because when I first was trying to organize the poems, I was thinking that I was going to do it chronologically, the ones that refer to my childhood and my parents, and and that part of my life. And then, adolescence, and then as a young mother, all the different parts of my life. And it's no secret, I have 3 marriages. I'm in my 3rd marriage, which is the last one, God willing, and I'm very happy. But so there are a lot of aspects of my life that I thought would work chronologically. And then when I was working with the editor at Atmosphere Press, she suggested that I arrange it differently, and she gave me some suggestions, and I started to realize that themes were more important than the chronological aspect. So, I mean, there's loving, and there's lost love, longing. There are the things that are basically domestic themes, and that's where most of my mother poems are about ironing and about cooking and those kinds of things. And then there are, what else do I have in there?
Well, we're going to select some poems from each. We'll go over what the themes were, and we're going to read them. But before we do that, just talk about the title, The Passion and Provocation.
Right. Well, I had another title. It wasn't that exciting, really. It was just the title of one of my poems. And it wasn't something that people thought would be inviting enough, to pick up the book and want to read it. And so then I was in a workshop for the Cape Cod Writers Center at the conference last year, and the professor there was talking about the importance of titles. So as I was sitting in the class, I thought, well, what is my book about? What is the main essence of my book? And I thought right away, passion. I mean, I have passion for a lot of things. And I thought, but it can't just be that. That's basically too common. So then I thought, the word provocation popped into my head, and I thought, yes, because provocation means so many things. It stimulates response. It can be troubling. It can raise questions. It's relatable in many ways. And as soon as I mentioned it to the class, they all said yes.
Okay.
And ever since.
Well, as I've been working on your book, reading and thinking about our interview, I keep coming back to that, and I say that myself, yes, because many of these poems have a little edginess to them. You have talked about lost love and divorce and some of the other things, but even if it's just a happy poem, there's usually something edgy about it. So why don't we get to reading some poems?
All right.
Because I don't think we should talk about them. I think we should read them.
Okay.
So the first section is called?
It's called Beginning.
Beginnings.
Right, and basically talking about my writing experience, essentially.
Yeah. So do you want to say anything more about that, or do you want to just jump in and read?
I'll just read one of them called Poems.
Okay.
And this is, everybody has the experience that writes, that you think of something when you're in bed, going to sleep, and you think, oh, I'll remember to get up and write it in the morning. And you don't remember what it was, or you don't remember how to say it the way you said it in your head the night before.
Right.
So that's how this poem came about. Poems. Great poems, like new lovers, lie on my pillow, promising to be there in the morning, but they never are. Old poems annoy me, as old lovers, once fresh and full of promise, grew tired of rejection and vanished, a whiff of cologne still lingering on the sheets.
Well, I will think about that many times, probably for different reasons, but the idea that things that vanish in the morning, it's hard to get back. It's hard to get back. So the next thing that we talked about was in your chapter called Domestic Themes. And this one, is that the next one or the fingerprinting one that we wanted to read?
Skylight. Is it Skylights?
Skylights, either one.
Wait a
Either
minute,
Skylights is
maybe I'm wrong.
20
Fingerprinting.
fingerprinting.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, this
Oh,
one,
wait.
this one is
Yeah.
something that I thought was very deep, and I would love to hear you read it.
Okay, thanks. Fingerprinting. Our fingerprints are on our children the moment they're conceived, from our DNA and diet to what we do or say. Then, after birth, our views, our morals, our beliefs, and often what we wish they wouldn't learn, are stamped upon their thoughts along the way. They are fingerprinted by their friends, their teachers and the neighbors, salesmen, priests or rabbis, television shows and films. We have one chance to fingerprint our children with values for their lives. They cannot be erased, reconstructed, or replaced. Once imprinted in their minds, the fingerprints will stay with them a lifetime.
Beware, parents everywhere.
Right,
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't we jump into the section on longings, which I think has the wise, moving, and amusing and sexy poems in it, and go to Lilac Wine
Okay.
on page 44.
All right. I'm just wondering if I should say anything. Well, I won't. Lilac Wine. I wish I could take your sweetness, add it to lilac wine, bottle it, cork it, and save it for the times I need something magnificent to appease my longing for some moment of you. But it would be gone too soon, for with each glass I'd pour, I'd take just one more sip and be worse than I am without you even now, the empty bottle leaving me in withdrawal and no hope for a cure.
Well, one of the things that the reader will find when picking up your book is that you have quite a few poems about love, marriage, sex, longing, desire. And I mentioned to you that I don't think women talk a lot about sex. Some women at certain ages, but you have opened up a nice, with beautiful imagery and longing, provocation. It works in many. The word works in many contexts.
Right.
Have you had feedback from women?
Oh, all the time. They are surprised. They express to me that they are so appreciative of my vulnerability, my willingness to express things that they never would have been able to express. And of course, I hope it hasn't been in a bawdy way that I've talked about sex. I mean, as I said, I write these from my life and from my own experience, not necessarily for other people to hear. But then when I would take the poems and work on them in my workshop with my poetry friends, they would really be encouraging and tell me that it was a beautiful way to express that emotion or that experience. And so I had confidence, to put them in the book. But yes, women always, and then men as well, as you said, come to me and say, thank you so much for giving me something that I didn't know about my wife or my mother, or, you've really opened up information for me that I didn't know. And I'm stunned, and I'm happy that happens.
That's a good thing that you did that.
Yes, yes.
And that men have been able to say that to you.
Right,
That means that they really have opened up.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you to read Celebrating Marriage while we're talking about marriage. And this one is not sexy, but it's fun. I like this.
I love this.
It's a lot of fun.
And this, it definitely came out of my third marriage, my recent one. Celebrating Marriage. We've just begun, though both of us have been there twice before, spending a quiet night alone or buying groceries for our evening meal, a holiday, throwing socks in the dryer, making the bed we've slept in. What joy! Reading a book, writing a poem, having dessert, watching a movie on TV with someone close by who is loved and loves us. This is the peace each of us has longed for. No trip to Europe or nightclub date could possibly match this sedentary contentment. Finally, being together is everything.
Yay. Wonderful. Well, you asked me to read something, and I picked one from the chapter Love's Demise and Other Losses. And I am going to do my best to convey what I felt about this poem and how lovely and how it is. I'm not going to say what it is. It's called The Heart of the Matter. Can a broken heart break another heart? Can two broken hearts mend each other's? Can two broken hearts blend into one that is whole? Can one whole heart break into two broken ones? Can your broken heart reside inside mine until your heart's content? Can mine reside in yours? Would you feel my heart throb or skip a beat? If you love someone with all your heart and then they break it, do you get back half a heart, or are you heartless? Do they give yours back half-heartedly with a heavy heart, or are they light-hearted? I'm wearing my heart on my sleeve. Can we have a heart-to-heart, straight from the heart? I've given you my heart. It is heart-rending to think of my heart's desire leaving. Can one die of a broken heart? I'd go with you in a heartbeat. I would follow my heart. Cross my heart, sweetheart. Now,
Thank you
that
so
one
much.
gets 2 gold stars. 3 gold stars.
Thank you. It's really interesting to hear what people relate to,
Yeah.
because so many people have so many different ones that they really strongly, find is part of their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I want you to read, I'm going to skip right to the part on tributes, and then if we have some time, we might go back to a couple of others.
Okay.
But I think this is one of the fun things in this book. The section is called Tributes, and it's on page 205, and the section is called Tributes.
Yes.
And
this poem is Speed.
This poem is Speed.
Right.
And, as you
Yeah.
just said. So,
Okay.
go to it.
Well, James Dean was a very popular movie star when I was growing up, and he was very handsome. He was known for Rebel Without a Cause and East of Eden with Julie Harris. And I was in a play called Come Back to the Five and Dime, Jimmy Dean. So I did a lot of reading about Jimmy Dean, and a lot of people don't remember him, younger people, but older people do. So he was living a fast life. And so this is called Speed, but not the kind of speed we talk about now. I would have told James Dean, slow down, if I'd have been his girlfriend and a passenger in his car. If I'd been going to that race with him, I'd have said, Jimmy, you'll have plenty of time to go fast when you're on the racetrack. Just go at the speed limit, you hear? Because I want to get there too and be with you. Jimmy loved me. He hated to make me mad. He'd have slowed down. He'd have made it to that race. He'd have won with a trophy in his hands. He'd have blown me a kiss and smiled. And then when I ran to him, he'd have thrown his arms around me and said, thanks, Judy. I couldn't have done it without you. Jimmy Dean, oh, Jimmy Dean, you were only 24 when you sped through that death's door. You needed a girl who cared, like me.
Oh, sweet. Very sweet.
Thank
my.
you.
We have had many conversations, you and I, and we only have a few minutes left. Would you like to talk about writing poetry, rewriting, or would you like to read more poems?
Oh gosh, oh gosh.
You know, maybe we should talk about readers' emotional responses to your poetry, because you have gotten some letters that are just hard not to want to read out loud and at length, but I'm only going to read a few sections about this. Basically, this writer is talking about how these poems are supposedly about you, but they also feel like they could be just about him. I feel reading these poems that I am discovering things about myself. As you write at the beginning of About My Father, this is about my father, but it could be about any father, maybe even yours. Or like all of your poems, it could be about me. The situations that capture with your spare and powerful words are from my life and the lives of all your readers. Now, when you write poetry, do you think that people are going to resonate, that this is going to be about them as well as you?
I don't. I really don't.
Yeah,
I mean, as I said, actually, I work with a group called the Scargo Hill Poets, and there are 7 of us. We really trust one another. We've been together for a long time. And so we bring something that, you know, maybe we've just written and we want to know, is it worth working on, or, you know, does anybody relate to it? And so when they say, oh, yes, you know, you've expressed me exactly, you know. And then, you know, when they give me suggestions, I might change things a little bit or, you know, work things around. But it's just wonderful to have that.
You have achieved that in this book, Passion and Provocation. I want to encourage all our listeners to find more information about you on judithpartelow.com. Ask for this book at your local bookstore or a library, or order it online. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. You can give it as gifts very easily. Make a great Valentine's Day present. If there's anybody you want to say things to that you can't say yourself, you might find a few poems in here.
That's right. That's right.
That express
people have
your
read my
feelings.
poems at weddings.
Yeah.
And other times.
At other times. There's a wonderful poem about friendship that I wanted to read. So thank you for coming, and
thank
good
you,
luck with the
Madeline.
book. It's been delightful to
Thank you
have
so
you
much.
come.
I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you for listening, everyone. And if you'd like to see more books in the world, go to the website, capecodwritercenter.org, and you'll find links to other interviews. Thank you.